I've been called worse. Thank you, Madam President. Today I want to talk about two very important topics to America and the folks back home in Alabama. President Biden's so-called infrastructure proposal and his proposed budget for the Department of Defense. Now, I know infrastructure and defense aren't exactly the peanut butter and jelly of issues, but let me tell you how they go together. With these two proposals, the American people can plainly see just how out of place President Biden's priorities are. I've traveled every corner of Alabama, from Mobile to Muscle Shoals, to our state's rural communities and the urban centers. All the time, I hear that we need improvements to our transportation infrastructure, and I've seen it with my own eyes. There are over 100,000 miles of public roads and 16,000 bridges in Alabama. More than 1,000 of those bridges have been condemned. Driving on poor roads cost Alabama drivers a total of $4.2 billion annually due to vehicle operating costs, traffic congestion, and car crashes. And it's not just Alabama, it's everywhere in our country. I've spent decades traveling around the country as a football coach, and I'm here to tell you we need help. We need help with our infrastructure. Investment in infrastructure is important and very, very necessary. Sound infrastructure allows people to get to work, keep our goods flowing, and keep America competitive. That's why every penny and every dollar of any infrastructure proposal should be spent on actual infrastructure. Sadly, President Biden's proposal fails that test by a long shot. Out of this massive $2.35 trillion proposal, only 6% is for roads and bridges. In fact, the proposal puts more money towards electric cars than roads, bridges, ports, waterways combined. We've got to stop treating government like spending its money like monopoly money. When American people hear about what's included in this bill, I think they'll agree. The Biden administration is using the umbrella term of infrastructure for a host of things back home that don't associate with the word. Here's a couple of spending items that qualify as infrastructure according to President Biden. $400 billion for nursing care, $213 billion for government housing. Now, I can see and understand where those fit in, but not in an infrastructure bill. But what gets me is the $10 billion per year for a civilian climate corps. Now, this $10 billion includes free housing, free clothing, free food, and allowance for members while they promote climate justice. $10 billion a year. Now, is that infrastructure? We can debate the individual merits of these items, but please, let's not pretend these are for infrastructure, because we need true infrastructure. To call this an infrastructure proposal is really an insult to the English language. The definition of infrastructure is not the kitchen sink approach. Let's call this proposal what it is. It's a farce. This proposal is simply the Green New Deal in disguise. And they need to disguise it because the actual infrastructure improvement is popular. The Green New Deal is not. In order to pay for all this spending, President Biden has proposed raising the corporate tax by 7%, the largest federal tax increase since 1993. This would undo President Trump's Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which spurred the greatest economy we've had in decades. I can tell you right now, the worst possible time to raise taxes is in the middle of a crisis. So many employers have already been hit hard and are just trying to get back on their feet. Remember, who really ends up paying for tax increases, especially corporate tax rates. It is the consumer, like you and me. It is not the corporation. As Americans for Tax Reform has pointed out, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act directly led to lower utility bills for hardworking folks across the country. Raising taxes would directly raise electric bills on millions of Americans, essentially taxing them too. As tax increases threaten family-owned small businesses and family farms, forcing future generations to sell the legacy their parents and their grandparents have worked so hard to build. Here's the real kicker. As Democrats are out there peddling this proposal as infrastructure and jobs, President Biden's tax increase will eliminate 1 million jobs in the first 2 years alone, according to the National Association of Manufacturers. All that harm just to pay for Democrats' wish list consisting of the Green New Deal. That absolutely makes no sense. We need to be focused on creating jobs and getting folks back to work, not destroying jobs for progressive pipe dreams down the road. This comes on the heel of a massive stimulus that just passed, the one that Democrats call the COVID relief, but really less than 10% of the bill went to COVID and health-related measures.